Good evening and welcome to the WDSU News Hot Seat. I'm Travers Mackel. Tonight we're going in depth into the shooting and the shooting death of former Saints star Will Smith, shot and killed 1 week ago in the Lower Garden District. The shooting made national headlines with information coming out on exactly what happened. Right now, police officers say Smith was shot and killed after his Mercedes-Benz SUV was struck from behind by a Hummer driven by Cardell Hayes. The two got into a verbal altercation and then shots were fired. The coroner says Smith was hit with 8 bullets, 7 penetrated, almost all hit him in the back, says the coroner. Police have searched all vehicles confiscated and they found 3 guns. The weapon they say Cardell Hayes fired, a .45 caliber handgun, as well as another revolver in the SUV and a loaded 9mm handgun in Will Smith's SUV. To discuss this matter, we'll have sports anchor Fletcher Mackel with reaction from current and former Saints players, as well as Smith's impact in this community. He'll be up a little later on. And we'll get a point-counterpoint debate with a former prosecutor and current defense attorney over how this case will be tried. But first, we begin with security expert and former NOPD SWAT team commander Mike Kahn on the police investigation. Mike, how do you grade this investigation so far?
Well, there's a lot of information coming out from different areas, and I think that there was a lot of miscommunication in the very beginning. It's kind of interesting at this point right now because there's a lot of misinformation that came out, and we're still not sure what we don't know in the investigation as far as relationships and accidents.
The police say they were dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's, and they waited about 48 hours before they searched all the vehicles, and that's when they found the 9mm handgun in Will Smith's car. Why wait that long? Why wait to secure a warrant?
Well, first of all, the first thing you would do is do a cursory search just to make sure that you retrieve anything that is valuable or anything that could be quote-unquote perishable in a situation like this. Then you would seize the vehicle, put it in a cage, and get a search warrant for it. I'm not sure whether a search warrant would have taken 48 hours at all for something like this, but then you comb through it meticulously with Crime Lab and look for any evidence related to this that you could find.
Smith was shot 8 times. 7 of those bullets penetrated his body, most in the back. What does that indicate to police when they're looking at an investigation like this?
I can tell you that's indicative of the fact, obviously, that he was hunched over and he was perhaps in between the seats. But the fact that he was shot that many times in the back would indicate that he was not a threat at that time. There's no reason to shoot someone in the back that many times. There would be something, if he pointed a gun, there'd be a shot to the front, in the chest area, somewhere else. But that's just way too many shots in the back.
This past week, police were seen canvassing Magazine Street looking for surveillance video. There is nothing definitive to show what happens, but we have pieces of various videos coming in from Magazine Street. Does that help police with their investigation?
Sure, absolutely. Between that and eyewitness statements, in a situation like this, it's quite believable that there was an initial impact in between the vehicles. Something did happen at that point. The situation ensued and progressed to another location. So you never know what you might miss as far as a camera in someone's house or outside of someone's house that maybe you didn't know or you didn't see, or someone was videotaping this from a window. So you really want to exhaust all of your options for bringing any potential video that would help clear up some of the miscommunication and misconceptions.
Final question here. It's no secret, and it's already come out, and you were a longtime police officer, that the defense will try to punch holes in the police investigation. That is a common practice for most defense attorneys in high-profile cases like this. Do the police really have to be buttoned up on this one because they know this will be scrutinized more than most cases?
Absolutely, and the New Orleans Police Department has a great homicide squad. They will go through this and they will be extremely cautious, careful, and meticulous in what they do. They will be very cautious on getting statements. There's no rush at this point. You're not worrying about anyone fleeing. You're not worrying about anything happening. You want to take your time, make sure you do it correctly so in court it can't be dismissed, and you want to make sure you get the correct information. So right now they're being very, very methodical with everything they're doing.
Mike Kahn, security expert, former NOPD officer, we appreciate your time.
Thank you,
Now
George.
let's get to the legal debate here. We have former prosecutor Matt Chester, defense attorney Robert Jenkins. We're going to do a point-counterpoint. Matt, why is this a prosecutable case for second-degree murder for prosecutors?
There's a couple of reasons, Travers. First of all, let me preface this by saying, obviously, we know what's in the public domain. The prosecutors certainly know a lot more than we probably do, the defense attorneys as well. But based on the information we know, I think there's a couple of reasons why this is a good case from the prosecution's perspective. Those two reasons would be some of the evidence that's found at the scene, some of the anatomical and ballistics evidence that's at the scene, and then the second reason would be evidence leading up to the scene. And very briefly, as to the first, you have one gun that was used in this crime, and that gun belonged to Mr. Hayes. That gun was discharged maybe 8-10 times. 7 of those went into Mr. Smith's back. If Mr. Fuller, Mr. Hayes' defense attorney, is laying the self-defense strategy, being shot in the back, along with a couple of shots in the wife, that is inconsistent with such a strategy. The evidence leading up to the scene, you have the hit-and-run episode. From what I've seen in some of the video footage, it looks like a very light tap. I wouldn't even qualify it as a fender bender. And the next thing we're led to believe, or that we've read in some of the public reports, is that Mr. Hayes accelerated at a high rate of speed, rammed into Mr. Smith's Mercedes, shattering the back window, causing whiplash, causing that very big car to lurch forward and hit the car in front of him. Again, this is inconsistent with somebody who is fearing for his life in and around the time of the shooting. So for those two reasons, I think from the prosecution's perspective, what we know now, this is a pretty good case.
Robert, why is this a defendable case? You know John Fuller well, and you've defended cases. He's going to make the case that this was not second-degree murder. This was a man who feared for his life and defended himself. Can he make that case? Absolutely.
His best evidence is the witnesses on the scene. There's a videotape with one witness saying that, hey, it was a heated argument. Things were out of hand. And this one witness, and you heard him say that, one guy says, hey, I got a gun. I'm going to get my gun. The other one, which presumably is Mr. Hayes, says, I have one too. Will Smith goes to the car, comes out, and Cardell Hayes defends himself. It's not so much the shots in the back. You have one that goes in the side, which shows you that he saw him coming out of that vehicle with a weapon and defended himself. So that's why for the defense, he's in good shape, because you got witnesses that support that.
Matt, a 9mm handgun loaded was found in Will Smith's vehicle. How do prosecutors handle that?
It depends on kind of what the evidence shows with respect to that gun. Mr. Smith's attorney has made statements that he had a license to carry it, nothing illegal about owning a gun. He had a license to carry it, and Mr. Thompson said that it was compartmentalized, which generally means it's in the center console, it's in the glove box. At this point, I haven't heard of a witness come forward and say he brandished the gun in front of Mr. Hayes. Until a witness comes forward and says something like that, it's pretty easy to deal with. You just, as a prosecutor, you would just say he was legally authorized to own it and to carry it, and it was never brandished. It was compartmentalized during the entire incident.
Robert, I take it the defense will have a completely different view.
Absolutely. I mean, he heard the tapes. He heard the witnesses say that, look, I have a gun. He goes to the car to get the gun. The evidence support that first shot comes in the front, coming around, which means that the person who had the best view of it was Cardell Hayes. He saw him coming out of the car with a weapon towards him, and he fired, defending himself. That's going to be supportive. They can't get around that particular fact.
Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, I would just say this, and my friend Mr. Jenkins makes some good points. What I would say is what I've read, what I've seen is that there were 8 shots, 7 in his back. It took place in his vehicle, so not a situation where Mr. Hayes was being defensive, but instead potentially being aggressive. The other evidence that's come out it reflects Mr. Hayes standing over the body, yelling out some sort of primal scream. Again, you'd have to hear what eyewitnesses say. If that's to be believed, that's just inconsistent, even if one shot did come in through the side, inconsistent with the theory of self-defense.
Is it, Robert, is the defense going to have to build their case around witness testimony? Because obviously Mr. Smith and the prosecution, Mr. Smith's team, his camp, his wife, they're going to have people that said, hey, this was an out-of-control gunman. So is the defense really going to have to track down witnesses that they feel can back their story?
Absolutely, because as Matt knows, this is an affirmative defense, meaning they have to prove those allegations. Normally in a case involving a prosecution, the defense has nothing to do. But because it's an affirmative defense, they have to prove that indeed it was self-defense, and the state would rebut. But the physical evidence supports that once that first shot, then the others, when you turn it and he continue to shoot, doesn't mean that it diminishes that it was self-defense.
Is it safe to say, final question for both of you all, or one of the final questions, is it safe to say this is a case that's really open to interpretation? We get so reliant on videotape evidence, and there is none of that, at least not now that we've seen. So now you really have to take the facts, and the prosecution has one side, the defense has another angle.
Yes and no. I think that any case is made on the strength of the evidence. Part of that evidence is going to be eyewitness testimony. Because there wasn't video of the actual shooting that I'm aware of, it is going to be open to interpretation based on what the eyewitnesses have to say when they have to be called to testify in court. On the other hand, the other evidence that does exist, and I mention this again, 8 shots, 7 in the back, 2 into Mr. Smith's wife, coupled with the incident that took place prior to the confrontation, ramming in the back of Mr. Smith's car. Again, these are pieces of evidence prosecutors are going to certainly use to make the case less about conflicting eyewitness testimony and more about hard evidence that they can prove in court.
Prosecutors make Cardell Hayes look like the aggressor, where the defense has said the whole time, right out the gate, they don't believe he was the aggressor.
Without a doubt, because initially the evidence support that Will Smith hit him first. And he goes around and leaves the scene. He's fleeing. All he was doing, Mr. Hayes was trying to get a license. Smith stopped short, and this is what happened.
Final question, really, before we let you all go. Is a lesser charge on the table here? If you're District Attorney Leon Cannizzaro watching this, we know second-degree murder is the charge right now, but they have manslaughter and negligent homicide. Are those even on the table, or do you say, no way, we're going for the full boat here?
I don't even really want to speculate as to what Mr. Cannizzaro and his office is going to, make prosecutorial decisions for. Certainly those are possibilities, but that's entirely within his office's discretion. The office can choose to prosecute a second-degree murder, and a jury can come back with lesser included verdicts, they call them. But in terms of discretion, he has all the discretion that he wants to. Charging second-degree murder in this case, based on the evidence we know thus far, is appropriate. Seems appropriate.
What do you think about the lesser charges? Possibly.
It's a possibility, but I've talked to Mr. Fuller many times, and his client is not going to accept anything of that nature because they believe they can prove self-defense, not guilty, and they have a pretty good case to do so.
All right. Matt Chester, former federal prosecutor, Robert Jenkins, defense attorney. Hang tight here for one moment. We're going to go back to the newsroom right now. And my brother, sports anchor Fletcher Mackel. Fletcher, Will Smith was a big saint in this community, not just on the field, but in the community as well. With his giving back, he's one of the very few saints who resides here full time.
That's right. Will Smith and his wife Raquel were making their home here full time post-football. He was very active in the community, hosting several charitable events. In fact, just this weekend, they had a fundraiser to help raise money for a New Orleans area student that will go to the Ohio State University. Will Smith was very active with the Ohio State Alumni Association here, having been an All-American and a national champion there. The scholarship that they will award now will now be known as the Will Smith Memorial Scholarship. And again, Will Smith really loved New Orleans, spent his entire career here in New Orleans, 10 seasons. Just last month, I'm on the Hall of Fame selection committee. We voted him in unanimously to the Saints Hall of Fame. He will now go in this fall posthumously. So Will Smith was somebody that was drafted here and fell in love with this community, married a local girl, raising his family here, and truly a guy, like you said, a saint on and off the field in the community.
And really quickly, lots of tweets, lots of reaching out by current and former players.
Absolutely, not just NFL players. Look, LeBron James immediately sent a tweet out with condolences to the Smith family. Most of the people who met Will Smith, I say this over and over and over again, that there were foundation pillars of the Saints' success, but there were really 3 main foundation pillars of the Saints' success, and they are Drew Brees, John Vilma, and Will Smith. Will Smith always seemed to carry himself. He was a mature man, if you will. Even when he came here in 2004, he seemed like an older soul. He was a person that people gravitated towards, and it's not a surprise that he was an All-American at Ohio State, a team captain, a national champion there, and that he was one of the true foundation pillars of this franchise, turning it around and becoming something special starting in 2006 after Hurricane Katrina. I remember him telling me last year when I was talking to him on the 10th anniversary coverage that we did, he really believed that they were doing something more than just playing football football after the storm. He knew they were playing for the people of New Orleans, Louisiana, and the Gulf South. He was a guy that got it, and that's why I think you've seen the outpouring of love from former players, coaches, and a lot of people in this community. A guy on the field who was great, in the locker room who was great, and of course in the community who also did some great things.
All right, sports anchor Fletcher Mackel, thank you for your time. We also want to thank Robert Jenkins, Matt Chester, and Mike Kahn, all for being here. That's it for the Hot Seat. Gina, let's send it back to you.